Brian. The couple things I'm excited about: the Ladies' Day yesterday. I understand that went off great. 36-ish people here for the Ladies' Day, and that's awesome. So great that we got that started, and glad for all that participated in that. Thank Meredith for getting that going and leading that. So that was great, and thank Michael for teaching class on Wednesday night. He said he got through all the questions and went through all the verses. So I watched the tape. I'm just going to see how honest you all were. I watched the video, so he got through one question. That was very good. And so anyway, we're going to leave that one alone on friendship. And now we were moving on to generosity and greed this morning. So I guess let's look at definitions. What would you consider a generous man? Give me a term that you'd use to consider somebody who was generous. Kind and willing to help. Good.
Not too attached to their own resources.
Okay. So that's a good one. Not too attached. A greedy person a generous person is one who is willing to share, wanting to help others, kind, willing. What else? Thoughts when you think about somebody that's generous? Okay, they don't expect anything in return. They're willing to be giving without expecting anything back. They're not giving for that reason. Other thoughts?
Stay within their own means.
Okay, stay within their own means, meaning they don't
Get outside. They don't give more than they should.
Oh, no, okay. They're not overly, not giving for ulterior motives or giving more than they should based on whatever their situation is. Okay, good one. Do we like generous people? We do, don't we? We like to be around people that we know are generous, that we know that they're willing to help, and that they don't hold on to things, I think, too tightly. They've got something that if somebody else needs it, they're willing to share that with them. And we've got many verses that we'll look at in Proverbs and other places in the Bible that talk about, as Christians, we should be the most generous of all people, because God has certainly blessed us, and we should be willing to share that. And it does not have to be money. When you think of generosity, you often think of money, but that's certainly not what being generous is all about. It's part of it, but what else can we give to show our generosity? Our time, our talents. We give our time, we give our talents. Some of y'all can do things that would be very generous if you'd come to my house and fix things that I can't fix. There's ladies that can do things that certainly I'm not capable of doing as far as around the house and baking and doing and sharing. So there's lots of ways that you can be generous, and it does not have to be money. It can be lots of other resources that you can share with others. And as far as spiritually, same way. We've all got different abilities, and sharing God's word with others is, if you've got that talent and you have the ability to do that, then you certainly, I think, I should be doing that. So we give to receive. That was somebody made that quote. We give to receive. If you want more grace and mercy from others, be more gracious and merciful to others. If you want kindness from others, be kind to others yourself. So we give to receive, and I think that is part of what a generous person does. They give of whatever they have because they want, not that they want it back, but they will get it back. I think that's good. Now, what about greed? Just the opposite of that. What's a greedy person? How would you describe a greedy person? Self-centered, always thinking about me. Okay, never satisfied. It talks about this greedy person, an insatiable desire. It means you can never get enough. Well, that's certainly a characteristic of somebody we do not want to be. What else about greed? What? Yeah, it seems like they're never happy, are they? They never get enough. The greedy person wants something that somebody else has got. They desire somebody else's car, or they desire somebody else's lifestyle, and they're greedy for something that they don't have that causes them to be unhappy. And Michael, you have to help me with this, but I know you've spoke on this about greed and about people, what they make, and if you ask them how much more they'd like to help us with that.
So the study goes, if you go survey people and ask them what would their income have to be in order for them to be comfortable and satisfied, in general, the answer is roughly double what they currently make. And that's true. I'm talking about, Americans in general.
Okay.
And that's true no matter what the income bracket is.
Okay.
People making 25 would be happy. They think they'd be satisfied at 50 at 100, and 100 at 200, and 250 at 500. So the more we make, as Americans in general, the more we make, the farther we are from being satisfied.
Okay. So I hope everybody heard that. There was a study, and Michael read, but as Americans, not as Christians, but as Americans, hopefully this is not us, the more, whatever you make, to be happy, you think, if I make double that, I'd be happy. So if I make $10,000 a year, if I make $20,000 a year, I'd be happy. Well, the guy that makes $50,000 a year says he'll be happy at 100. So he's 50,000 off. The guy that makes 10,000 is 10,000 off. The guy that makes 100,000 a year he said, I think I'll be happy at 200. So the theory of that is the more you have, the wider the gap it is for you to be happy. And as Americans, that's a problem. As Christians, that hopefully we got verses that tell us to be satisfied whatever state we're in. But greed in the United States, greed in America, we always want, or we think we desire, we'd like to have more than we've got, and we think if we get there, we'll be happy. But the point is, you're not going to be happy. Wealth doesn't make us as happy as we would like to be. This little quote on here, it is not what you would do with $1 million if $1 million e'er be your lot. So if you had $1 million, what would you do with it? But it's what are you doing with present with the $1.25 you got? So that's more like where we are. We got $1.25, what are we doing with that? We don't worry about what we'd do if we had $1 million. Worry about what have you currently got? How can you share? How can you be generous? So generosity and greed, opposite, two totally different concepts. As Christians, in Proverbs we'll talk about, Solomon tells us to be generous and talks about the fallacies of greed and what it causes. The first verse that we'll look at here is Proverbs 3 and verse 27, and we'll talk about this more in length a little later, but it's listed there at the top of the page. It says, do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is the power of your hand to do so. Do not withhold good. It doesn't say money. Do not withhold good from those, another version says, who deserve it, when it is the power of your hand to do so. So if we've got the ability to help somebody in whatever way that can be, then do not withhold it. If you have the ability to do it, do it. And we'll see that verse come up several times in this lesson. Thoughts, comments, generosity and greed?
I have a footnote for that verse that says, the Hebrew says, do not withhold good from its owners.
Okay.
Which is interesting. I wonder if in God's eyes that good is already due them. They already own it, but they're going to get it from us. So
Okay.
we're robbing them of it, of what they deserve
If we keep it.
help.
Okay. Good thought. Hadn't thought of that one. So we're all just stewards here, right? We're all just stewards. Everything we have has come from God, and so we need to be willing to share that with others, not be greedy, desiring more, and we'll look at that. Okay, list some characteristics of greed, and one of them we already talked about. There is an insatiable desire. You keep wanting. Proverbs 27 and verse 20 Somebody want to read that one for us? Proverbs 27 and verse 20.
Sheol and Abaddon are never satisfied with the eyes of man.
Okay, and what version are you using there? English Standard Version. The King James, New King James says, "Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied." Hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. Somebody help me with that a little bit. Help me with that thought that hell is never full. Death and destruction. So those two terms I looked at, and they're listed as death, hell, and Sheol, and yeah. So somebody help me what Solomon's trying to say there.
I mean, there's enough room for everybody to die, and there's always going to be more death.
Okay.
Always room for one more.
Okay.
And in the same way as, it's never going to get to a point where nobody else can die because these places are full. Same thing with our desires. There's never going to be enough that
Yes.
we feel like we're completely satisfied.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Death is never going to end. There's always going to be people dying. There's always going to be graves, and there's always going to be, hell is never full. There's always people that are going to, there's more room in hell for those that wish to be there. And so it is, he compares that with man's desires. There's always the desire for more, unfortunately. And so we need to be aware of that it's an insatiable desire. And if you have that greed, if you got that greedy attitude, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to have enough. Solomon talks about that too in Ecclesiastes. Let's look at Ecclesiastes chapter 5. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, starting in verse, I think it's 10. No, let's start at 8. 8 through 10. Ecclesiastes 5, 8 through 10. I'll look at that. Talking about the poor there, Solomon. "If you see the oppression of the poor and the violent perversion of justice and righteousness in a province, do not marvel at the matter. For high official watches over high official, and higher officials over them. Moreover, the profit of the land is for all. Even the king is served in the field." Verse 10, "He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver. He who loves abundance with increase." I messed up lost my place. "He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. So what profit have the owners except to see them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, but he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep." So Solomon says a lot there, and it gets a little bit confusing. Now listen to this other translation, which is a little better. I'll start with verse 10, or I can understand it better. "He who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase." So the more you got, it's not going to make you happy. "This is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. So what profit have the owners except to see them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep." So Solomon says, if you think it's all about riches and you think it's all about greed, then you become wealthy and you watch somebody else have the first fruits of what you have, and then you get so much going on that you think you're going to be happy and peaceful, and then you can't even sleep at night. So riches are not. Solomon talks about to be greedy for more is an insatiable desire, and it doesn't lead to what you think it's going to lead to. That which he wants but cannot have makes him miserable, and makes his life not as good as he thinks it's going to be. So greed is not a good thing, and we need to fight not to be a greedy in this life. Thoughts on that first one and about there being an insatiable desire? And then it says greed also in a list to be a miser, miserly. What's the difference in greed and what's a greedy person and a miser? Or is there a difference?
They go together, but it looks like a greedy always wants to gain more, and the miser wants to hang on to it. He's selfish. He doesn't want to give any of it away.
Yeah, the miser's, he's not trying to get more. He's whatever he's got, he doesn't want to share. He doesn't want to give it away. And he's always trying to hoard it, to hold on to it, to squeeze it. And that's certainly not good either, to be a miserly person, to be one who certainly that would not be a generous person. Says his generosity is a front, the miser. His heart is not in his gift to you, but in the cost to himself. If one's generosity is selfish, it's a sham. Generosity does not keep records of good done. So if you're a generous person, you don't make a tally sheet and say, well, I did a good thing there, I did a good thing there. You just do good things, and God will reward you for that. Proverbs 23 and verse 7. Let's look at that one. Proverbs 23 and verse 7. We want to read that one for us? Really starts in verse 6.
Eat thou not the bread of him that hath an evil eye, neither desire thou his dainty meats. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, says he to thee, but his heart is not with thee.
Okay. The other version says, do not eat the bread of a, or New King James says, do not eat the bread of a miser, nor desire his delicacies. For he thinks in his heart, so is he. Eat and drink, he says to you, but in his heart he's not with you. And to me, that's somebody who's encouraging you to eat and drink, but he really doesn't want you to. He's trying to share, but he really doesn't want to share. And all he's thinking about is, what's the cost? What am I giving up? What's the cost? That's not a generous person. That is someone who is a miser and doesn't want to share with others. So terrible thing to be miserly. We don't want to be that either. And then it talks about a greedy person is self-defeating in part 3 there. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, heart's not with it. He's not willing to share it. He's thinking about maybe what am I going to get rewarded because of this. So all kinds of bad attitudes about the miserly person there.
My version says stingy.
Okay.
Maybe we would use more often.
Yeah. Miserly, a stingy person. Yeah. Somebody just doesn't want to share what they've got, and not the kind of person we want to be. So let's move on to part 2 there, generosity, and talks about the person that is generous. He has got lots of things he's doing. He's caring for the needy. He doesn't put off helping the needy. When you do that, you honor the Lord, and you are blessed for your liberality. And several verses there to look up. Proverbs, let's look at Proverbs 14:31. Proverbs 14 and verse 31 tells us some pretty severe consequences of mistreating the poor, and certainly something we do not want to be guilty of. Somebody got that? Proverbs 14:31.
He who oppresses the poor taunts his maker, but he who is gracious to the needy honors him.
Okay. So if you oppress the poor, you are, what was your word? taunting the maker, and the maker is or mine's capital M, you're taunting God. If you oppress the poor, mine uses the word you're a reproach to God. But if you honor God, but he who honors him has mercy on the needy. So if you want God to be merciful to you, if you want God to look kindly on you, then be kind to the needy. And that's what that verse says. Another version says, those who oppress the poor insult their maker. So if we're oppressing the poor in any way, we insult God. But if we help the poor in any way, then we're honoring God. So if you want to honor God, be helpful to the poor. Do what you can to help them whenever you have the opportunity to do that. And then Proverbs 11, 24 through 26. Proverbs 11, 24 through 26. Somebody read that one for us.
One gives freely, grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and suffers want. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and the one who waters will himself be watered. People curse him who holds back grain, but a blessing is on the head of him who sells it.
Okay, so all kinds of good things there that we learn from Solomon. There's one who scatters, it increases more. So I think that tells us that if we give, if we're willing to give, if we're willing to share, then it's going to come back to us in some way. And there's one who withholds more than is right, and it leads to poverty. You think you're holding on, you have the ability, but you don't share. And Solomon says that eventually that could lead to poverty. The generous soul, verse 25, the generous soul will be rich, and he who waters will be watered himself. I like that. So if we're willing to water, if we're willing to do something to help others, then that's going to come back to us in some form or fashion. I think we see there. The people will curse him who withholds grain. If you got the ability to help and you don't, you're going to be cursed. But blessed will be on him who sells it. You have the ability, you can sell to others, help them in some way. Solomon, a lot to say about being generous. And back to 327, which is the one that is at the top of the page. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due. When you have the power in your hand to do so is not a good thing. And somewhere along the way, and I think you've probably all heard this, and I think that verse is very particular with the equation A plus O equals R. And I've heard a lot about that, and it's in my head. I can't get it out of my head. A plus O equals R. Everybody know what that is? If you have the ability, have the ability to help, and the opportunity shows up, then it's your responsibility to help in that situation. So and I think of that a lot. If I've got the ability to help, something comes up, I've got the ability to help, and the opportunity has shown itself, then it's my responsibility to do what I can to help in that situation. And a lot of times I don't have the ability. Somebody's got a mechanical problem, I don't have the ability. They're going to have to fix, I just don't have the ability. But lots of other times, if I have the ability to help somebody, opportunity, whatever presents itself, and I think as Christians, we have the responsibility to help in that situation. And I think that verse certainly points that out. We also, another verse that's just 1 John 3:17, kind of the same vein of wanting to help. Should we be helping? Yes, we should be helping. 1 John 3 and verse 17. Talking about the love of God, for sure in John, but starting in verse 16. By this we know love, because he laid down his life for us, and we also ought to lay down our lives for our brethren. So certainly love is very, very important. And then verse 17, but whoever has this world's goods, you got the ability, and sees his brother in need, there's an opportunity there, and you shut up your heart from him, how does the love of God abide in you? So that A plus O equals R thing there, you've got this world's goods, see a brother in need, and you don't do anything about it, then you certainly failed. And I think in what John is telling us there. And also, same thing, Hebrews 13 and verse 16. Somebody read that one. Hebrews 13 and verse 16.
Do not neglect doing good and sharing, for with such sacrifices God is pleased.
Okay, so don't forget to do good. Doesn't talk about particularly money there, but don't forget to do good and share with those in need. These are the sacrifices that please God. So if you want to please God, then do good and share. I mean, it's pretty laid out there for us. Do good and share, and that pleases God. And I think it's interesting that it also calls it a sacrifice. And so how does the word sacrifice fit in there? What is a sacrifice?
To complete the A plus the O equals R requires some sort of sacrifice.
Okay.
Financially, time, the effort, just in doing something for somebody, whether it's doing something around their home or whatever, or sharing the gospel. You have time, it takes effort studying the gospel. Unlimited things that it can take. There's no way you cannot make effort to complete that equation.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that sacrifices, you're giving up something, and maybe your time, and maybe your money, whatever you're giving up, but you're making a sacrifice. You're dedicating yourself to do something, to help somebody else, and Hebrews 13, 16 says that pleases God. So if you want to please God, do that.
Doing something to me is more like just effort, like that's just the work, that's what you're doing. If it was a real sacrifice, it has to hurt some.
Yeah.
Like it has to be uncomfortable, it has to hurt your pocketbook, it has to hurt your time. Like it's not just, I don't think so, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, sacrifice does say there's some hurt there when there's a sacrifice. And a lot of times we can do things that help others that maybe we really, it doesn't hurt us in some way, but we still should be doing those things. So sacrifice may have been a little strong there, but certainly I think it does play a part in that. And I'm trying to think of the Old Testament, 2 Samuel, where 24, offer burnt sacrifice. David wasn't going to offer a burnt sacrifice that cost him nothing. He was being given that land, and he said, "No, I'm going to pay for it. I don't want that land. I want to buy that land because it's otherwise I'm not giving anything for it, and it's not much of a sacrifice, and I don't want to do that." But so a heart's got to be in it if it's going to be the kind of generosity that God wants it to be. So I kind of beat that one to death. Any other thoughts on caring for the needy and the responsibility we have there?
Just another verse to throw in there, Ezekiel 16, like 48 through 50, talks about the sin of Sodom being their arrogance toward the poor,
Okay.
of withholding, like they had all kinds of good stuff, but they didn't do anything to help them.
Okay.
So I think it's interesting. We usually think of the sin of Sodom as being some other things, but that was included.
Okay. Arrogance toward the poor, not willing to help. Thank you. Second part of that is don't put off helping the needy. Right in the middle of, right past Proverbs 3:27 is Proverbs 3:28 that just says, if you got the ability to help, don't wait till tomorrow to do it. Do it right now. Somebody want to read that one, Proverbs 3:28. Yeah, so don't, hey, let me think about it. I'm pretty bad to say one. Come back tomorrow, and perhaps we'll be able to help you then. If you have the ability to help, do it right then. Don't wait till tomorrow. Do it at that. Solomon says, do it right now. Do not say to your neighbor, come back tomorrow. Take care of the situation right now. So don't put it off in doing it when we can do it. Tomorrow may be too late. And when we are generous, we are honoring the Lord. Proverbs 14:31 talks about when we help the poor, we honor our Maker. And then if we don't help the poor, God takes it as a personal insult. Proverbs 22 and 23. We already looked at that one. Proverbs 22, verse 22 and 23.
Rob not the poor because he is poor, neither oppress the afflicted in the gate. For the Lord will plead their cause and spoil the soul of those that spoil them.
Okay, so do not take advantage of the poor. Do not rob the poor just because he's in the situation that he's in, because the Lord will be their defender. The Lord will plead their cause, and it says he will ruin anyone who ruins them. So if you want the Lord to be unhappy with you, and you want the Lord to cause your life not to be what you would like for it to be, then be the one that does not treat the poor properly. And it says the Lord will plunder the soul of those who do that. So very, very serious stuff there about being generous honors the Lord, but not doing what we should do causes the Lord to be unhappy with us. And then part D there, the Lord blesses, blessings of liberality, and it says the liberal soul will be made fat in 28:27. What in the world does that mean? The liberal soul will be made fat. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Context is good, it seems like.
Yeah.
If you're going to help, you're going to be blessed.
Yeah, if you're going to help, you're going to be blessed. And he who gives to the poor will not lack, but he who hides his eyes will have many curses. You give to the poor, you'll be blessed because of that, and God will see to that. But if you shut your eyes to the poor, then he will ignore you in your time of need. So if you, lots of reasons there to be generous. Any thoughts on those greed and generosity before we move on to some of these questions?
Caring for the needy. I think sometimes we can be generous with our money, but not so much with our care.
Okay.
There are lots of causes we can donate to and think that will help the poor, but do we really have that care for them? Are we teaching? Are we helping, doing something to help their situation?
Okay.
Or are we just kind of giving some money and I mean, it's good to give the money, but what's our attitude behind it?
Right. So the heart is a big part of that. And is our heart right in what we give? I mean, lots of folks can give, as Tara said, money to different organizations. That's kind of the easy way, I suppose. Good to do, but kind of the easy way. But are we really giving service like maybe that we could? Which leads to the first question there. Why isn't generosity based on the amount of the gift? What is it based on? Okay, based on our heart. So we're all blessed differently. We're all stewards. God's given us all we've got. We're all given different abilities and different amounts to help. And so it's not the amount of the gift. It's where the heart is. And, you know, the widow's mite, and the lesson that we're taught there is that she gave sacrificially. She gave, to Tara's comment, she gave till it hurt. And she was blessed because of that. It wasn't the amount that she gave. It was what she gave from the heart. And so our generosity is not about the amount, but it's based on where our heart is, and are we doing it with the right motive? So it's my answer anyway. Anybody else thoughts on question number one?
I think an ultimate box checking thing. I think Good Samaritan. The two guys that passed him all had building opportunity.
Yes.
Definitely had more of a reason to help him based on who they were.
Right.
Third one, based on relationship among people, had no reason to help him. But as we saw, he saw a building opportunity, no respecter person in that regard.
Right.
I was going to do what God was giving me the opportunity to do.
Okay.
So that's not always easy, but that's I think that's kind of a hard pill we got to swallow. But that's kind of what's expected there.
Okay.
A sacrifice. He sacrificed a lot of things in what he did there.
Sure.
So I think that's the attitude we got to work toward.
Okay.
What he did there.
Okay. Good point. Good thought. Number two, we kind of handled. Number three, we kind of looked at how will a miser or a stingy person treat you? If he does happen to do anything for you, what is his mind likely on? And it uses Proverbs 23, 6 through 8, which we talked about. So what did we say his mind might be on?
How much it's costing him to help you?
Yeah, what's the cost? Look what I'm giving up here. I'm sharing a meal with him, and look what it's costing me. So we're more worried about the cost than where his heart should be on that. And certainly that is an issue. How about number 5? What is the extent of our responsibility to help the needy? What is the extent of it? Is there an extent? Okay, the Lord tells us that the needy will always be with us. So we know there's always going to be needy around. So there's always going to be opportunity for us to help. So I don't think that somebody may have a different thought on that. I don't think that there is an extent. If there's needy out there and we have the ability to help, then I don't think there's an extent on that. Anybody got to look at that differently? That question differently?
That's where I put the equation. The extent of our responsibility is the extent, however much we're able, and however many times we see a need.
Agreed. There's a quote. I don't quote Mother Teresa much, but she had a quote here. Never worry about the numbers. Help one person at a time, and always start with the one nearest you. I thought that was good. Don't worry about how many people you're helping. Just help people one at a time as the opportunity comes about, and always start with the one that's nearest to you, closest one to you, the one you have the opportunity to help. Thought that was good. Why can't the needy wait until tomorrow for their help? It's kind of an obvious question. They need it now, don't they? If they didn't need it, they wouldn't have come and asked. So if we have the opportunity, let's help them now. In what sense do we honor the Lord when showing mercy to the needy? Proverbs 14:31. What y'all put for that one? How do we show mercy to the Lord when we help the needy? And I think we looked at that verse, Proverbs 14:31. Yeah. Okay. It says, yeah, when we help the poor, we're honoring God. And so in that way, we're certainly honoring the Lord when we help them needy. When we take advantage of the poor, then we insult God. And he certainly is not proud of that.
Well, all men are poor before God.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to the sin category.
Okay.
And nothing on this planet is ours.
Okay.
So when God shows mercy and blessings upon us, he is giving freely that which is all his.
Okay.
So it's insulting when he gives us things and we do not share.
Okay. Good thought. Everything belongs to God. And when we're not willing to share what God's given us, then we're insulting God because of that. Good thought. What about this number 9? I like this was a great thought. Why does God indebt himself to us for helping the poor? And Proverbs 19:17. I don't think we read that one. Let's look at that one. How does God indebt? So God owes us something. Somebody want to read that verse for us? Proverbs 19:17. Okay, so if we help the poor, it says we're lending to the Lord, and he will repay us. So how do you like the thought of the Lord holding accounts receivable? The Lord's got my accounts. We have lent money to God. Do you think God will repay what he owes? 100%. Maybe we'll get some interest on that money. It's like the bank. Would the banker like to lend to somebody that he knows is going to repay him? Tom Blimmer? 100%. He knows those are good loans. He knows that person needs the money, but he knows the money has the ability to pay. He's happy about that. That's how we should be about helping the poor. In a way, it says we're lending money to God, and God, He's going to repay us. And it may be spiritual for sure, and it could be temporal, but it could be eternal as well. So I thought that verse was a great verse. When you help the poor, it's like you're lending money to God, and God will repay us. And
The wording on that I had trouble with.
yeah,
God indebted to us.
yeah,
I just kind of clenched my teeth at that a little bit.
yeah.
That's to me, I think that's a poor wording.
Okay,
God doesn't owe anybody anything. The thing is, He's just.
okay,
And He'll settle those debts. I mean, I had the Matthew 6, 24 through 34 context on there. We need to do good, possibly to encourage us to focus more on helping others and trusting God to just take care of us.
right,
Just the idea of God being indebted
yeah,
to me.
yeah.
I have trouble saying that.
Yeah, yeah. It makes us maybe a little uncomfortable thinking that God really owes us anything. Because, but on the other hand, it makes it like he's pointed out here. If we're doing good, the thought that God is pleased with that, and that He kind of gives us a little checkbox, as Ron said, that we're going to be repaid if we have the right attitude and the right heart, and we're sharing with others, and God is pleased with that. Anybody have thoughts, comments again on number 9 there?
I was kind of like Sam, I'm struggling with that.
Mickey, what poor are we talking about? That you're looking for opportunity, it abounds everywhere.
It does.
And you can see it in the church, you can see it out there in the world, and an awful lot of us poor, the poor brings it on themselves. I'll explain that.
Right,
People just won't work, jobs are available, but they won't work.
right.
You know, that's the kind of person I would not want to
Okay,
help necessarily, just encourage him to keep on keeping on.
right. So we do know that there are folks in this world that don't do anything to help themselves, and they cause their situation to come about because of their lifestyle or habits that they have. And those people are difficult to want to help, Wendell. But I would also say there's a soul there. There's a soul there. And, I guess we've got to be very judicious in making those judgments about, how are those people, if we help them, what are they going to do with that? And if we know history tells us that they're going to do a terrible, they're not going to treat whatever we give them with the respect and honor, then maybe we look at somebody else that perhaps has a need just the same, that we know will handle that correctly. That'd be my thoughts on that. Any thoughts on that one? Okay, thank you all. We battled through, and on Wednesday night we'll be looking at the home life. So we kind of switch gears here, and we talk about the home life, and Solomon talks about the worthy woman and husbands and wives. So we get to the family here toward the end of Proverbs.